looking at different programs and different ways that you can teach phonics. And we'll be using a variety of methods. So it will be a mixture of textbook work, which we'll look at, as well as speaking in small groups, practicing listening tasks, and using a variety of tools. So it won't just be the textbook, which is mandatory for the lessons. It will also be using videos, using online resources, and using the whiteboard function on Zoom so that they can draw or write answers, the share screen function as well. So there's all these different tools that we'll use in the lessons to enable everybody to practice phonics and use them in the best way from a variety of different channels. So it won't ever just be writing only. It will be a wide range of channels. Okay, so these are the two main textbooks that we'll use. The main textbook is Phonics ages 5 and 6. So this is ideal for home learning. This is the one underneath with the picture of the owl on it. And this is for the younger age group, obviously, for children aged 5 and 6. And for the older age group, we'll use the Collins Phonics and Spelling, Collins Practice, for ages 10 and 11. So this is for the slightly older age group, but they're both reputable, and both of these textbooks are widely used by teachers in the UK, and they're well accredited. Everybody knows Collins is a good publisher, and these textbooks specifically have excellent reviews, and they are a good supplement to the work. Obviously, the textbooks on their own don't provide enough information or help to progress as far as you can if you come to the lessons. So the lessons kind of embed the practice in a more holistic approach. So rather than just looking at exercises in the textbook, the child will also be integrating that practice by speaking, by listening, by engaging in conversation between the others members of the class and also the teacher. So there's a real mix and a real chance for them to receive feedback on their work as well. So it means that when they're practicing speaking, I can be taking notes and I can respond to what they're saying and provide corrections on the spot as well. And there'll also be homework. So the textbooks will be used for homework. So based on the lesson, I can then say, okay, go back during the week, try and do 15 minutes on page 6. Complete the exercises, and then they can also bring any questions or queries that they have back to the following lesson. So it's like an ongoing conversation during the classes. And although it will be there'll be different options of courses, during the course there'll be the option to then develop further and increase their ability to use phonics, use the English language, and phonics will form the basis for all their future work that they'll do in the English language. So I'll just put the Chinese translation up so you can read a bit about the textbooks. And if you do have questions as we're going along, feel free to write them down, and then there'll be time at the end to discuss them. So it's important that if you do sign up for the course to purchase these two textbooks, depending on which age the child is. So the younger age group will be the one at the bottom, older age group, one at the top. These are some sample pages from the textbook. These are from the textbook for ages 5 and 6, because most of the clients are going to be around those ages. And this is the style of the textbook inside. So there's going to be possibly some short pieces of writing, short poetry. So I eat my peas with honey. So E. So you're practicing the E sound in the context. So that's embedded phonics, like we talked about a couple of slides back. This just enables the child to think about how they can use the sound in the context. And then there will be some questions at the bottom here. So you can see the peas are eaten with, and then they can check back and it practices it. So it's like a mini reading comprehension and practice for longer pieces of writing that they'll have to do later down the line in their school as well, especially if they go to an English school. So it'll be questions. So it'll be a range of activities based on a small piece at the top, possibly some reading, and then there'll also be chance to, before these pages, to practice the single sounds. So it'll be, here is the E sound, and here are some pictures using the E sound. So honey, beans, keeps, peas, eat. So they're practicing this E sound in as many different scenarios as possible. And the same happens on the next page as well. It's going to be a short piece of writing and some questions below. So how are Jess and Alex going on a holiday? They've got to look back through and read through to find the correct answer. So it's not too difficult. Once they've kind of got to this stage, they would have looked at all the different phonics sounds and also practiced them in different contexts, practiced using the different sounds. And that's the main thing that's really important with the phonics work, is to practice using them in context and to practice all 4 elements of language. So this is obviously practicing their reading and also their writing. But before this stage, they would have practiced a lot of listening, a lot of speaking, and then writing becomes a lot easier once you practice hearing the words. So you start to recognize how the word sounds, then you can listen for that word, and then you can start to notice what it looks like when it's written down in the context. Okay, and there's just the Chinese translation at the top with the textbook. And that takes us, just making sure everybody's let in. Yeah. So that then takes us to the Q&A. So thank you so much for listening. And you can put any questions that you have into the chat box, and then I'll answer those questions for you. Okay, so any questions about phonics or the program or any sort of queries or worries that you have going forward, we can have a little look at this.
Emily, we have collected a few questions along the way.
Okay.
So the first question was, so in the UK, for the children, from what age that they start to learn phonics, and how long does it last?
At schools in the UK, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you would learn phonics right from the first day at school. So probably if you tend to start school in the UK around the age of 4 or 5. So it would be around the time the first textbook is used for ages 5 and 6. So around that time, between 4 and 5, they would be introduced in a very basic way. So after you've kind of learned the alphabet, the next step is to learn phonics. So it's kind of the next step in the English language, is to practice. First of all, you have the letters, and then how to put those letters together. And then once you put those letters together, it forms sounds, and that's the basis of the words. So it goes hand in hand with speaking practice as well. So I would say you do it mostly between the ages of 5 and 6. So 4, 5, and 6, on and off, with obviously with other elements of the language. So it's not just phonics. You'd also do spellings. You'd also do descriptive tasks and a wide variety of games and tasks. But phonics form the basis early on, and then they'll be revisited again around the ages, so 10 and 11, when they're doing their key stage 2 SATs, because it forms some of the modules and some of the questions in England they do SATs. It's different in Scotland, but basically it's revisited later just to remind them of which sounds go in which words, basically. But it's kind of touched upon throughout the school year, but I'd say mainly really early on, and then just when they're finishing secondary school.
Right. SATs is kind of a entrance exam, isn't it?
Kind of. So it's basically to assess a child's level at the end of primary school before they go to secondary school. So these are taken in school, but then moderated externally. And they're just given a percentage, and then certain schools have certain entry requirements. So it's not the same as the 11 plus. That's a different exam that is graded in terms of getting into more like private schools and grammar schools.
Yeah.
But state schools, it's just to kind of determine a child's level, so they know whether to put them in the top groups or the bottom groups, or where to place them in the school system. So do they need extra help, or are they more in the very top end of the groups?
Okay. There's another question. So we now understand phonics is many sets of rules of speaking or pronunciation, rather. So are there any exceptions? Or just the rules? People just stick to rules. It's fine. Or are there any exceptions in the rules?
So I mean, I think with phonics they try to map out all the sounds that are spoken in the English language. So I wouldn't say there are exceptions in phonics themselves, but when it comes to spellings, sometimes you think a word is spelt in a certain way because it sounds a certain way, but actually it's spelled in a completely different way. So I think phonics becomes difficult when it turns into spelling because it doesn't always match up. So a child might write something phonetically or using phonics, but then it's a different spelling rule. So I think that's where the exceptions come in, is later when we're doing spelling.
Right. Okay. Yeah. These are the questions we have for now. 大家还有其他没有问题吗？如果有其他问题的话，或者是之后再想起来什么其他问题，可以联系我们，然后我们会把这些问题再转发给艾米丽老师。And it seems like we don't have more questions.
Okay. I mean, I wondered whether to talk a little bit about the course that's running in January, or whether we'll just send the information by email to everybody, because that's kind of the important thing, is that this is all form the basis of the course.
Yeah, I think you could just introduce a bit about the course, and then we'll follow up with everybody with the more detailed information.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess, the main reason is that I'm describing all these elements of phonics and why phonics are so important, is because they form all the different elements of language. So speaking, listening, reading, and writing. So it forms the basis of all the future development. And the idea is that we'll then run a course, and we're looking at sort of 8 weeks from sometime in January. It still needs to be finalized, and Chloe's going to send an email with all the details and the flyer for that. But the idea is that it will be a comprehensive course introducing the child to phonics, or if they're in the older age group, going over phonics again and being able to practice those like SATs questions or practice possible exam questions, and just go into more details in how to use phonics and how to basically express yourself better using the English language in a way that you're using the correct sounds and the correct pronunciation, and then using that, we'll look into writing and spelling and how to develop from that. So that's kind of the basis of the talk.
Okay, all right. I think that's the end of our online the event. Thank you very much, Emily.
Thank you so much for hosting it.
Okay, so we'll say bye.
Okay, do you want me to sign out and then you'll continue, or?
No, it's fine. We'll just leave these sessions now.
Okay, should I end the meet? I'll stop the recording.